Flight and technical characteristics of the Blom and Voss BV-138A-1 Sea Dragon aircraft. Engines. Jumo 205 C4. Power. HP. 600. Wingspan. 26.9 meters. Aircraft length. 19.85 meters. Aircraft height. 5.9 meters. Wing area. 108.5 square meters. Weight. Kilogram. Empty aircraft. 10,800. Normal takeoff. 13,762. Maximum takeoff. 16,215. Speed. Kilometers per hour. Maximum. 264. Cruising. 237. Rate of climb. 3.9 meters per second. Practical ceiling. 3,600 meters. Flight range. Kilometers. Normal. 1245. Maximum. 3,900. BV-138, Sea Dragon. History of the aircraft. One of the most unusual mass-built flying boats, which received the nickname Fliegende Hohlschuh, flying shoe, for its characteristic appearance. Its design began at the turn of 1933 and 1934, when the requirements for a long-range seaplane, an Ocean Scout, were formulated. Under the leadership of R. Vogt, 3 draft projects were developed. Although none of them fully met the customer's requirements, Project 8 was chosen for further development. It was distinguished by a relatively short fuselage boat, the shape of which later gave the seaplane its unofficial nickname, a seagull type wing, and a plumage carried on 2 tubular beams. The development of the aircraft was quite long due to the low priority of the program and problems with the choice of the power plant. In the end, they settled on 3 6-cylinder Jumo 205 diesels, one of which was mounted on a pylon above the fuselage, and the other 2 on the wingtip, as if in continuation of the tail beams. The first prototype on the 138 volts one first took to the air on July 15, 1937, and the next month the second machine with a straight wing instead of the seagull was put to the test. The tests showed unsatisfactory hydrodynamic characteristics and insufficient stability of the aircraft in flight. To improve the qualities of the machine, significant changes were made, tested on pre-production machines. In particular, the length of the boat increased by almost 3 meters, from 12.2 to 15.15 meters, and the section of the tail beams was changed from round to rectangular. The aircraft received the necessary equipment to ensure relatively comfortable working and rest conditions for the crew during long flights, as well as quite powerful defensive small arms, but the bomb load was purely symbolic, 150 kilograms. After all, the main task of the seaplane was reconnaissance. The designation has also changed due to the renaming of the aircraft building department of the Blom und Voss concern, from HA 138 to BV 138. Service and combat use of BV 138. The start of deliveries of serial BV 138A-1 coincided with Operation Weserübung, the occupation of Denmark and Norway. Therefore, The first vehicles of this type were received by Transport Group KGR. Z. B. V. 108, which was engaged in transportation of troops and cargoes to Norway. In June of 1940, the BV-138A-1 Armored Detachment 1/Coup.Fi. Gr. 506, which had been operating over the Bay of Biscay since October. By the end of the year it was joined by 2/Coup.Fi. Gr. 906 with seaplanes of the same modification. During the service, the planes BV-138A-1 did not show themselves in the best light due to the problems with their engine installations and cannon fire. In the middle of 1941, both squadrons were withdrawn from France to be rearmed with more modern versions of the Sea Dragon. In early 1941, the units began receiving Blom and Foss BV-138Bs. In the spring, they received Detachment 2/Coup.Fi. Gr. 406, which from July was based in Norway and acted against the Arctic convoys. Deployment of the BV-138C made it possible to rearm new units with them, and 2/Coup.Fi. Gr. 906, in summer 1941, 3/Coup.Fi. Gr. 406, in December 1941, and 1/Sagr. 125, also in December, were armed with these machines in Norway. In July 1943, the Sea Dragons stationed in Norway were reunited with the Sagr. 130 of the three-unit formation. The modifications BV-138B and BV-138C proved themselves to be reliable and efficient machines. The increased strength of the hull allowed them to withstand heavy damage from enemy fire. Combined with their high seaworthiness, this also made it possible to use new tactical techniques. The BV-138s were able to fly into the Atlantic, land on the water, and drift until a convoy appeared. In addition, the BV-138s were able to refuel from submarines. By the spring of 1944, the number of BV-138s in the operational units decreased greatly. The cessation of production and high casualties under the conditions of the enemy's air superiority. The last use was recorded on May 1, 1945, when one BV-138 of 3/Sagr. 130, based in Copenhagen, landed at night on one of the lakes near Berlin. It was supposed to take out 2 couriers, according to some reports, with Hitler's will. But, because of a mess with the documents, the pilot took 10 wounded to Copenhagen instead. The seaplane BV-138, especially in its modification C, was a very successful machine. Its flight time was up to 18 hours and simple maintenance allowed even complicated repairs to be made by the crew after landing at sea. The presence of 3 firing points with good firing zones allowed the BV-138 not only to defend successfully, but even to attack the enemy.